Good evening. It is Wednesday, 5:30. I see a few of you are already in the chat. Good to see you. Hey, guys, I hope that your first week of the official learning grid has gone really, really well. Chromebook distribution. I got an email from Mr. Attell, our principal, today saying that they dispersed 476 Chromebooks today. That is incredible. That was a huge undertaking. I love that we had so many staff people, and hopefully your experience, if you went down to get a Chromebook today, was as problem-free as possible. I know there was some confusion about charging cables not matching the Chromebooks, so some people had to go back. I apologize for that. But 476 Chromebooks, I think a few little hitches are to be expected with that kind of number. If you did not get a Chromebook today, and you still need one, there's going to be a last chance distribution tomorrow morning. Between 7:30 and 8:30 at the school. So here's what Mr. Attell says, that you can pull into the Circle Drive at Kennedy tomorrow between 7:30 a.m. and 8:30 a.m., wait in your car to be served, and some staff person, possibly Mr. Attell himself, will come forward and give you what you need, the Chromebook, the charging cable, and an instruction sheet. If you do need to get a Chromebook tomorrow, he has asked that you send him an email. If you don't have his address, you can message me and I'll get it to you. We've got a few things to talk about today. It should not be a very long cast. I've got the Class Dojo questions coming up here. I've got the chat there. It says on here, if the chat is working, will you please, I'm afraid it says unable to connect to chat. I'm afraid that possibly I did something wrong. So I'm gonna just put a test out here to see if it works. And see if somebody can just respond, just to let me know that you are in the room. That would be excellent. I appreciate that. And if it doesn't work for some reason, if the chat isn't there, if you could send me a message on Dojo, that way I kind of know not to be looking where there's nothing going to be coming up. First thing I want to check in with you about is just the Chromebook distribution. We've already talked about that. If you're having any sort of connectivity issues, I know that there was probably a sheet that came with the Chromebook and the charger cable today. And it said to contact the Medford School District help desk. Honestly, if you have any sort of an issue with your student ID number for your kiddo, or a password, or maybe a password needs to be reset or anything, please contact me. They are being just slammed at help desk, and that's all the sort of stuff that I can do easily for you. I can reset passwords, tell you what the password is, or give you your student's student ID number, anything like that. It's understandable if they don't remember. It's been a few weeks since they've had to use it. But that is something that you can contact me about. There was also a lot of information on that sheet about just the basic use and care of Chromebooks, how to be careful with them, how not to take them into the bathtub or a shower, things like that. Also, I do want to let you know that those are still managed by Medford School District. So there'll be some sites and things like that might be blocked or have limited access. And that is just like we would have it at school, a filter in place to make sure that your kids are not stumbling into anything that they really shouldn't see. I do recommend that you plug that Chromebook in every single night. They have a pretty amazing battery life. They can go like 6 to 10 hours, kind of depending on the model, without having to be plugged in. But if you just set it on the charger or plug the charging cable in each night, that would sure be a good way to make sure it's always ready for your student to use in the morning, daytime. There is a website. I will post it in Dojo in the comments, the comment section to the post that gave you the link to come here today. If you need to go there, like I said, that's the Medford School District Help Desk. They are being slammed right now. Today was a pretty rough day. So if you have anything that's basic connectivity questions, feel free to contact me. My wife, Miss Grandel, is the media tech for Kennedy. So between the two of us, we can troubleshoot most anything. So let me know. Hello ID, once your kiddo logs into their Chromebook, just like they would at school, one thing I did notice a few parents were having some struggles with today is it's the backslash that is like backslash like that. I don't know how the camera reverses things around right now, but the one where the top of it leans over to the left, it's right up top right-hand corner below the backspace. When your student logs in, make sure they type in student, that backslash top right-hand corner, and then their ID number, like 205212. And then their password should be the same super secret password that they had at the end of third quarter before we left school. If you don't remember that, your student doesn't remember that, please contact me. I will give you that very happily. And Hello ID really is going to be the place where your student connects to most anything that we do. If they need to get onto Google Classroom, which that's really where all of their content is going to be found, then going through Hello ID is the best way to do it. On the Chromebook, you should not have any of those issues with other email accounts that are trying to conflict with your kids' school district email account. I know I have some parents that were trying to have a student log in on a computer that was already logged into a different account, and it kind of created some issues there where you look like you're logged into the student account, and then all of a sudden, Google Classroom is not working. It's asking for a join code. You should not be needing to put a new join code in. If you are, if it's asking you for a join code for a class, then something isn't logging in correctly. So the Chromebooks going through Hello ID, that should really handle all of those issues. Again, if you have any problems, let me know. I'm here to help. Hello ID, the other things that we're going to be using on there, we've got Imagine Math Facts is on there. It should log the students in right away. Sora is on there. Of course, Google Classroom is on there. iReady, math and reading are on there. Most of the things that we have in that learning grid that are online, you're going to find on Hello ID. Some exceptions would be like the National Geographic Kids. That's not there, but we gave you the link in Google Classroom. I had a question again from a parent earlier today asking about the grid. What do you do with the grid? As a student completes something, do you check it off and take a picture every day and send that to me? Actually, don't even worry about checking anything off on that grid anymore. If your kiddo is connected to Google Classroom, then all of the assignments on that learning grid, all 3 content areas, both online and offline, you're going to find an assignment in Google Classroom for each one of those items. Now, the student is not expected to do all 6 things. I'm not talking about the health and wellness stuff. That is different. I know Mr. Alonso sent a message about that last week. But your student is not expected to do every single thing on that learning grid. Remember, they can choose one item from each column, one math item, and then practice that like 3 times a day. Or not 3 times a day, 3 times a week. So it'd be like the iReady math lessons. Just do 3 of those in the course of a week. It's not a daily thing, but just do it several times. Same thing with the reading. You don't have to read every single day, doing everything on that chart. Make it as manageable as possible. If you've got an hour to dedicate to school, great. If you need to spread that out across the week in a different way, that's great too. And as the student finishes any one of those assignments, they just go into Google Classroom, find that assignment listed in our Classworks page. Your kiddo should know where that is. But if it's been too long, they don't remember where Classworks is. Across the top, it says Stream, and then Classworks, and then I think it says People. Classworks is where all of those assignments will be found. The student will find the one they just completed and follow the directions on the assignment, and then click Turn In, and I'll get the copy of that. Something else I wanted to mention, I had some kids that were a little confused. We did talk about this in our Zoom class yesterday, which was, by the way, awesome. So much fun. So glad that so many of you were able to connect. But all 3 third grade teachers, so myself, Mrs. Maytanis, and Mr. Flock, we're all working together. We've always worked together. But now in the Google Classroom setting, you will see all 3 teachers' names. So it just so happened this week that all of the reading assignments came from me, all of the math assignments came from Mr. Flock, and the science and social study assignment came from Mrs. Maytanis. So if your student logs in and sees something from Mr. Flock and it's like, oh, I've never had an assignment from Mr. Flock before, do I have to do it? Well, if that's the item from the grid that they have chosen to do, then yeah, do that. If it's not, that's okay too. But like I said, all math assignments for this week would have Mr. Flock's name attached to them. Science and social study would have Mrs. Maytanis. So don't be alarmed if you see some other names on there. We're all working together. They are legitimate. Google Classroom has not been hacked. Had a question today also about turning assignments in. Do you need to turn them in right away as you do them or wait till the end of the week? That's really up to you. At the end of the week, Friday, that's when everything is due. So as long as you get things turned in by Friday, that's great. Now, tonight or in the morning, I am going to put a Google form onto the Google Classroom Classworks page. And what that's going to be is basically a digital version of the learning grid. And so when students get to the end of the week, don't complete it yet because the week's not done. But when you get to Friday and the student has completed everything they're going to do from the learning grid for this week, they'll open up that Google form, and it is called the Week 1 Learning Grid Response. And they will click on that, and they will basically, it's a bunch of check boxes. Every item from first they say what their name is, and they say who their teacher is. That'd be me. And then they go through and there's a checkbox for each assignment. And they would just check the ones that they completed for this week. And that's sort of the digital version of that learning grid. So instead of printing it out and check marking and sending me a photo, which a lot of extra steps, and you might not have a printer. My printer doesn't work right now. So I'm in the same boat as some of you. But that way you can just use that form, the Google form. It's like a Survey Monkey. And you can click that off, and then you submit that at the end of the week. Wait until Friday to have the kids submit that one, because that's sort of the overall kind of the summary of what they've done this week. All right, let me see what else I have in my notes. I don't see any questions coming in, so I'm a little concerned that maybe I did not set something correctly and the chat function is not working. I don't see any comments or questions coming in through Class Dojo. Let me look one more place here. I'm going to vamp for a minute. By the way, I really appreciate that you are all, we've got 8 parents logged in right now. I appreciate that so much. And I know other people will be watching it after the fact. These videos will stay live past this. You won't be able to type anything in there in the chat, but at least it'll still work for you to watch it. Learning grid. Okay, another thing, the Class Dojo program, it has what's called a portfolio. And that is a place where if I've ever sent you like a photo of your kids from school or maybe a student assignment, if I've ever sent that to you, those typically will show up in your student's portfolio as part of Class Dojo. It's not a function that we really talked about in school at all this year. I've done it in the past, but you guys, your kiddos are really sharp, and several of them have discovered how to access that class portfolio. Lucas sent me a video that was just telling me about what he's been doing. It was so wonderful to see that today. Liam has sent me several pieces of work that he's been doing, his multiplication practice, his reading summaries with these awesome cartoons that he's drawing for the book. Jordan sent me a picture of her learning to ride a horse, practicing riding a horse. So really cool stuff. If you look at the Class Dojo app and you find that, that portfolio feature, you are welcome to upload content to that. I have to approve it. So when you upload something, it's not going to show up right away. I'll get a notification and I go in and then I just make sure it's legitimate, that it's something you actually put out there. And then I'll say approve, and it'll be part of your portfolio. That's only between you, your student, and me. That doesn't go, doesn't broadcast out to the whole class or the rest of the internet or anything. So it's pretty private. Also, talking about privacy and security, I know that there's been a lot of mention in the news about Zoom and people, Zoom bombing, I think is the term I've used. People just dropping in and maybe either just being annoying or silly or downright offensive in Zoom conferences. One of the ways that this week we did use Zoom with students for our Zoom class yesterday. We didn't have any issues whatsoever as far as anyone jumping in that was not supposed to be there. So that was good. It's one of the reasons I used a password to be able to protect that session. So you had to not only know the address to get in, you also had to know the password to get in as well. And I will continue to do that if we do use Zoom. Another possibility moving forward is that we might use Google Meet, which is sort of like Google's version of Skype or FaceTime or things like that. Students have not had access to that until this week. And now I believe students, I have to verify this, but I think students will have access to Google Meet moving forward. Not for like the chat, things like that, but just as far as being able to do like a Zoom conference, being able to have the video and audio to do a meeting for the class. So I'll explore that to see how stable it is, how easy to use it is, how secure it is. And if I feel like that, along with the other third grade teachers, is a good equivalent for Zoom that might be safer and easier, then we'll move to that. I'll let you know. Anything that's like that is going to show up in our Class Dojo story. I've really been trying to not post more than once a day, even if that much. I know you're getting information from all over the place, so I don't want to add to the noise. So I really try to be very conservative in what I put out there as far as announcements and things like that. Speaking of announcements, you might have heard that Governor Brown, State of Oregon Governor Brown, has gone ahead and made the decision to keep us off-site learning for the rest of this school year. So like I mentioned last week in this YouTube stream, it was kind of suspected that we would not be coming back to school this year. And that is, as it turns out, the case. So we got an email from our school superintendent, Dr. Champion, to verify that we will not be back on campus as a class this school year. Hopefully everything will be healthy and back in ordinary fashion for next school year. I have every measure of optimism for that. So we're just really looking at continuing to move forward as successfully as possible for this school year, learning at home, finding new and creative ways to keep our community thriving. Like I said last week, this is a challenge. We're learning as we go. And if you have questions about something, please ask. I'm here as a support for you to the absolute greatest extent of my ability. And if I don't know the answer, I will find out the answer and get it to you. So I don't see any questions coming up in the chat. My concern is that I probably did click something incorrectly and the chat is closed today. So I will take a look over here at Dojo one more time and see if I've got anything coming in there. I don't see anything. I love that we have quite a few people in this stream, but we're a quiet bunch tonight, it seems. Or maybe you just have all the answers in place. Let me see. There is, okay, Mrs. Reed and Ashley, you guys are watching on TV. Hey, that's awesome. I'm on TV. I saw a thing that some teacher had put out this past week on social media about 2020 being the year that all the teachers became YouTube stars before the kids did. And that, there you go. Put that out there. All right. I think that is about all. I really just want to let you know again, if you have any technology problems, anything that is confusing, or you're just not quite sure about how to do anything as far as our distance learning is going, please contact me. If you got the Chromebook today, you got that sheet that says talk to the Medford School District Help Desk. Again, they are slammed. They have calls all day long. And I don't want to add to their burden. So if it's anything about just connecting to Classroom or Hello ID or using a Chromebook, that's what I'm here for. So please contact me. Let me be your first line of defense for that, first line of information and assistance. We're going to close this off in less than 20 minutes. Not too bad. Hopefully I addressed anything that you might have had a question about. I'll figure out what went wrong with the chat. If you are able, will you give it one more try just to see if the chat is possibly working? I know I was able to put my test message out there, but if you can, I see a thumbs up. That's awesome. Thank you. Thumbs up right back at you. I don't see anything on the chat, so I messed something up. Hey, mistakes. Like I said, loved meeting with your students yesterday. We had about 2/3 of our class that were able to connect via Zoom conferences. And I'm looking forward to even more next week now that we have more Chromebooks in student hands. So as far as my plan right at this moment is we will continue on next week, same pattern. Monday morning, I'll put a message out on a video on Class Dojo. Tuesday morning, we'll have 3 different sections of small group classes on Zoom. And then Wednesday evening, just like this, I'll do kind of a recap and open house on YouTube Live, hopefully with the chat working next week. Guys, thank you so much. Take a big breath. We are getting through this. We're being successful. I know life is strange right now. It's hard, but man, what an opportunity for us to live lives of courage and tenacity and grit during challenging times, and to model that for our kids. I know that's what you guys are doing. It's what I'm trying to do. We've got a lot of people watching, a lot of eyes on us at home to see how we handle stressful situations. And this is a pretty amazing opportunity for us to model excellence. And I know you guys are doing that. So thank you. Let me see one more thing. I got hey, there's a picture from Wyatt of me on his screen. That's it's like Inception, Cosand inside of the video, It's great. And there we go. All right. Lucas's mom says, didn't realize there was a Zoom yesterday. Yeah, I'll try to make sure I make it pretty clear on the Class Dojo announcements when those Zoom sessions are. So once again, we have 3 different groups that will be happening Tuesday mornings. The first group, like Lucas's group, is the 9 a.m. group. And then at 9:30, there's a second group of 9 students. And then at 10 o'clock, there's another group of 9 students. So just check the story in Google, or not Google, but check the story in Class Dojo, and you'll see that schedule. All right, guys, have a great evening. God bless you all. And I look forward to hearing from you again. Have a great rest of your week.